What if I told you that something small, something ancient, something almost forgotten by time itself, has the power to quietly rearrange the course of your life in just 7 days? Not through force, not through coincidence, but through alignment. For centuries, across civilizations, people believed that fate was not fixed, but responsive. Responsive to intention, to energy, and to symbols that act as bridges between the visible and the invisible. Today, I want to tell you about one such object. An amulet that has been whispered about in old texts, guarded in family bloodlines, and rediscovered by those who were desperate enough to believe that change was still possible. Before you dismiss this as myth or superstition, listen carefully. Because this is not about magic in the way movies portray it. This is about focus, belief, ancient psychology, and something deeper that science has not yet named. The amulet I'm about to describe does not force fate to obey you. It simply removes what blocks it. And that difference is everything. Imagine waking up on day one with nothing visibly changed, yet something feels different. Your thoughts slow down. Your anxieties no longer scream as loudly. You start noticing signs you usually ignore. A message at the right time. A chance encounter. A delayed problem that somehow resolves itself. This is how it begins. Not with fireworks, but with silence. The amulet itself is simple. It doesn't glow. It doesn't hum. It doesn't announce its power. That is intentional. Ancient makers believed that loud symbols attract chaotic energy. This amulet was designed to be discreet, almost forgettable to the outside world, while becoming deeply familiar to the one who carries it. It is often circular, symbolizing cycles and completion. At its center is a mark that resembles nothing specific at first glance, yet feels strangely recognizable. That mark is not meant to be understood intellectually. It is meant to be felt. The moment you hold it for the first time, you are not activating it. You are being introduced to it. Many people make the mistake of expecting immediate results. But this amulet does not respond to impatience. It responds to consistency. For the first day, you simply carry it. You don't ask anything of it. You don't demand change. You let it observe you, in a way. This sounds strange, but ancient traditions believed objects absorb patterns from their owners. The amulet learns your rhythm before it begins adjusting it. By the second day, subtle resistance may appear. Old thoughts resurface. Doubts grow louder. This is not a sign that the amulet is failing. It is a sign that something is being challenged. When energy shifts, the first response is friction. Many people give up here, thinking nothing is happening. But those who persist often report the same thing, a sudden sense of clarity that comes and goes like a tide. On the third day, something interesting happens. Your awareness sharpens. You begin to notice how often you sabotage yourself with words, habits, and expectations. The amulet does not change fate directly. It changes your relationship with it. Fate, according to ancient belief, is not a straight line. It is a field of possibilities. The amulet narrows that field, not by limiting you, but by reducing noise. By the fourth day, external changes often begin. Not miracles, but openings. A delayed response finally arrives. A person you haven't spoken to reaches out. An opportunity that felt impossible now feels merely difficult. This is where skepticism begins to crack. Because coincidence only explains so much. And when enough small coincidences stack together, they stop feeling random. The amulet works because it anchors intention. Modern psychology would call this priming. Ancient mystics called it attunement. When you wear or carry it consistently, your mind starts aligning decisions with a single internal frequency. You hesitate less. You choose more clearly. You stop wasting energy on paths that were never meant for you. And fate responds to decisiveness. Day 5 is often emotional. People report vivid dreams, sudden memories, or an urge to let go of something they've been holding onto for years. This is not accidental. The amulet is designed to work with cycles of release. You cannot change direction while carrying unnecessary weight. On this day, you may feel tired. Or lighter. Or both. Let it happen. By the 6th day, resistance fades. What once felt uncertain now feels natural. You are no longer asking whether things will change. You are asking how to move with the change that has already begun. This is the most dangerous day to ignore the amulet. Not because something bad will happen, but because this is when people forget how stuck they used to feel. Gratitude matters here. Ancient users believed the amulet responded strongly to acknowledgement, not worship, but recognition. Then comes the seventh day. This is not the end. It is the lock-in point. Fate does not flip like a switch. It settles like dust after a storm. On this day, you may not receive dramatic proof. What you receive instead is direction. A knowing. A quiet certainty that something has shifted, even if you can't yet explain how. The amulet does not guarantee wealth, love, or success. That is not its purpose. Its purpose is alignment. And alignment is more powerful than luck. When you are aligned, the right effort meets the right moment. And that is how fate changes without violence. Throughout history, similar amulets were used by travelers, leaders, healers, and those standing at crossroads. Not because they were weak, but because they understood something we often forget today. Willpower alone is not enough. Environment matters. Symbols matter. Ritual matters. When you dismiss these things, you surrender them to randomness. When you reclaim them, you regain agency. This is why we talk about these forgotten tools here on Fate and Amulets. Not to promise fantasy, but to remind you that fate is not a prison. It is a conversation. And every conversation can change, depending on how you speak and what you listen to. If you're wondering whether this amulet will work for you, that question itself is part of the process. Curiosity opens doors that certainty keeps closed. You don't need blind belief. You need willingness. Willingness to observe. Willingness to carry something with intention for 7 days and see what unfolds. Some people stop after a week. Others never take it off again. Not because they fear losing its power, but because it becomes a reminder. A reminder that change does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes, it arrives quietly, wearing the shape of a simple object, waiting for you to notice that you are no longer the same person who first picked it up. If this story resonated with you, if you felt something shift even while listening, pay attention to that. That's how these things begin. And if you want to continue exploring the hidden mechanics of fate, symbols, and ancient tools that still work in the modern world, stay connected with Fate and Amulets. Because some knowledge doesn't disappear. It just waits to be remembered.